Welcome to the 2023 Skoll Awards for Social Innovation. Please welcome to the stage the Skoll Foundation CEO, Don Gibbs.
Wow, this is awesome. I've been looking forward to this day for 4 years. Back in 2019, I was sitting right down there, and I cried through this whole ceremony because I was so inspired and moved by the awardee speeches. I'll try not to cry this time, but no promises. I'm so excited to welcome President and Chief Operating Officer, my thought partner, friend, and co-leader, for the very first time to this stage, Marla Blow. Go get him.
Thank you all, and thanks, Don. It is an absolute pleasure. It's a thrill for me to be here. I am so looking forward to this, and I just want to take a moment to recognize our friends and colleagues and co-workers and partners that are observing Ramadan, and recognize the sacrifice that some of you might be making to be here with us and participate in this, and express our appreciation for having you as part of this. So thank you. Thank you. So here we are. Right? We're back together in person. We're going to celebrate the winners of the Skoll Award for Social Innovation. I joined Skoll 2 years ago, and I have been blown away by the power of the social innovators that the Skoll Foundation supports. I am so excited to be on this stage in person with all of you and to celebrate this moment and talk about the Skoll Award and give you a little bit of a feel for what it is. The Skoll Award represents the foundation that we offer, of what we offer at the foundation each year to a select group of social innovators whose work targets the root causes of societal problems that are ripe for transformational social change. This award builds on Jeff Skoll's founding vision, which was inspired by civic visionary John Gardner, who encouraged him to bet on good people doing good things. The Skoll Award is an evolution of that advice. Our strategy over the past 2 years has led us to fund not only social entrepreneurs, but also intrapreneurs, systems orchestrators, and coalitions that are driving change in innovative ways. So given this shift, we decided to rename the award and call it the Skoll Award for Social Innovation. It has always been a spotlight, and this year we're shining farther and wider than ever before, hoping our incredible Skoll network will fall in love, as we have, with these innovators and their passion to take on the biggest crises of our time. By investing in social innovations ripe for accelerated system-level impact, the Skoll Awards help unleash the full potential and reach of social change leaders. The recipients of the award are the standard bearers of the world we imagine, a sustainable world of peace and prosperity for all. Since the celebrations were moved virtually the past few years, we have some catching up to do. Tonight, we have not 1, not 2, but 3 classes of incredible social entrepreneurs and innovators to celebrate. Come on, this is 3 years worth of applause. There we go. There we go. Thank you.
We start tonight by honoring the 2020 Skoll Awardees for Social Entrepreneurship. This actually was the first class of awardees I helped to select as CEO of the Skoll Foundation. It was heartbreaking for us to cancel the 2020 Skoll World Forum, especially because it meant that we wouldn't be able to celebrate this awardee class in person that year. We were able to honor them virtually, and each of these organizations have shined over the past few years. So now we get to honor them in person. With that, please join me in welcoming our 2020 awardee class to the stage. Aparna Hegde from ARMMAN. Now you can applaud. Tiana, Epps-Johnson, Whitney Bay, and Donny Bridges. Ken Baker and Selena DeSola from Glasswing International. Paul Radu and Drew Sullivan from Organizing Crime and Corruption Reporting Project. And Drew Kojak from the International Council on Clean Transportation. Oh, you're getting applause. Okay, now you got to sit. We're going to give each of them a minute so that they can tell you what they're proud of that has happened since they received the award.
Thank you so much. Winning the Skoll Award in 2020 gave a massive fillip to our work. We've renewed our partnership with the Health Ministry in India and supported over 35 million women through pregnancy and infancy with preventive care information and trained over 290,000 health workers in 20 states of India using mobile health solutions. We've also created nuanced programming with increased emphasis on women and children with high-risk factors and equity encumbrance, and built more robust technology tools with the WhatsApp channel and multimedia content. Lastly, we are scaling up a new program on high-risk pregnancy management for nurses and medical officers, and were awarded the Co-Impact Systems Change Grant and the Elevate Prize for our efforts. Thank you.
Y'all, we could not have imagined the way that the months following winning the Skoll Award would have unfolded for us when we found ourselves leading a $350 million COVID response program helping election departments across the United States adapt their practices so that every voter could safely and securely cast a ballot that November. Woo. Today, we are so proud to be leading a collaborative effort backed by the Audacious Project, where every day we're working to close the gap between the ways that Americans envision our electoral system and the way that it actually operates. Thank you.
So at Glasswing, we want to help kids feel safe and enable them to thrive. So we partner with communities to transform schools, hospitals into safe, trauma-informed spaces that foster healing and resilience in some of the most violence-affected communities in Latin America and the Caribbean. And for us, winning the Skoll Award was completely transformative. It gave us more confidence and credibility, and it also helped us access more support, including the Audacious Project, to deepen and widen our work. So now we're able to reach 10 million people. Thank you so much.
Since winning the Skoll Award, OCCRP has continued to build a global movement of investigative journalists doing collaborative, cross-border reporting that exposes the dark money that is undermining our democracies. Our network is now spread across 6 continents, thanks to Skoll, and last year we published the Russian Asset Tracker, which is an ongoing project that catalogs the vast wealth held outside of Russia by oligarchs and persons close to Vladimir Putin. Our work has led to almost $10 billion in illicitly acquired funds being returned to the public sphere, and more than 600 arrests, sentences, and indictments. Thank you, Skoll.
Good afternoon. Thanks to the Skoll Foundation's invaluable contributions, we are optimistic at the ICCT, and we can now see a pathway to keep global temperature warming below 2 degrees C for the global on-road sector. Huge amount of work to be done still, but a huge amount of progress. And while there's still lots of work to do, thanks to policies that we, the ICCT, and many others helped put into place, electric passenger cars have reached about 20% market share in China and Europe. And with the passage of major climate legislation in the United States, we estimate that the US will reach more than 60% electric vehicles, cars that is, sales by 2030. So I want to thank the Skoll Foundation from the bottom of my heart for the celebration that it does for us, the narrative, and all the wonderful funding. So thank you, Don, and thank you, Marla.
No, wait, we got to get a picture. You're going too fast. We got to get a picture. Yeah. We are so honored to be able to partner with all of you. And one more round of applause for the 2020 Skoll Awardee class. Now you get to go. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Now we'll turn to the 2022 awardee class. This was the first class that I helped to select. I was inspired by their bravery, their intellect, their humility and vision. And we celebrated this amazing class virtually in 2022. And it's an honor to get to celebrate it with them here in Oxford with all of you. So join me in celebrating the 2022 awardee class. We'll start with Rodney Foxworth from Common Future. Angela Gishaga from Financing Alliance for Health. Tasso Azevedo from MAP Biomas. Nick Tilson from Indian Collective, represented by Jade Begay. Edith Elliott and Shahed Alam from Noura Health. And Alessandra Orfino from Nosas. Please join me in celebrating the 2022 Skoll class of awardees. Each of the 2022 awardees will be introducing the 2023 class. So we'll be hearing more from them very shortly. So now, the moment we've been waiting for, we will turn to the 2023 class of the Skoll Award for Social Innovation. Reflecting the true spirit of community, we've invited the 2022 class to do the introductions. So I will call back to the stage Jade Begay from Indian Collective and let her take it from here. Jade? All yours.
Thank you, Marla. As we all know, the climate conversation can get really technical and sometimes very noisy, right? But the most common desire I hear from those affected first and worst by climate change is simply to live the lives we deserve. At Indian Collective, we work to build Indigenous power each and every day so that we can practice our self-determination. Our first awardees, get this in their bones. They are incredible organizers working in an Asian context, but connected transnationally. It is my absolute honor to introduce the bridge builders, the climate visionaries, and indigenous leaders, ARMMAN.
Seperti apa yang ingin kita ciptakan?
Fokus!
Masalah utama masyarakat adat di Indonesia saat ini adalah perampasan wilayah adat dan segala kekayaan di dalam wilayah adat yang sangat masif. Hal ini berdampak pada munculnya yang disebut sebagai perubahan iklim.
Selalu wilayah adat menjadi target, baik target untuk pembangunan maupun target untuk bisnis.
Dan akar masalahnya karena pengakuan masyarakat adat di Indonesia itu berhenti di konstitusi.
Anak dari wilayah adat harus ada yang maju di DPR.
ARMMAN beranggotakan komunitas masyarakat adat di seluruh Indonesia untuk menyatukan visi dan misi untuk bergerak bersama, mengkonsolidasikan diri, memperjuangkan hak-hak masyarakat adat.
Pemetaan kita dulu yang masih sangat sedikit, sekarang sudah lebih 20 juta hektar sudah dipetakan wilayah adat. Karena peta wilayah adat itu adalah evidence, ya, bukti bahwa ini wilayah ini adalah milik masyarakat adat. Sekarang buktinya sudah ada, seharusnya itu bisa cepat dilakukan. Dunia seperti apa yang ingin kita ciptakan? Dunia di mana keadilan, baik di dalam komunitas maupun di luar komunitas, keadilan bisa ditegakkan.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome ARMMAN.
Adil Kak Talino, Bacuramin Kak Saruga, Basengat Kak Jubata. Be fair, always look up to the ancestors, and rely on God. It's my language from the Pompang people.
Bogi Melo, good evening. Ay! Ay! Mana sumuraka? Have you all cooked? First, allow me to invite our dear friends, Dewi Kartika from KPA, my dear friend from ARMMAN who are also here, Eustobio and Monica, can you please stand up? Thank you. These awards, indeed, for all of us here, to our indigenous sisters and brothers in Indonesia, in Asia, and beyond. To my thousands of ARMMAN leaders who are staying up late at home tonight with us. My friend Eus is on Facebook Live. Yeah, so they can watch. They're staying up for this moment, and also to our supporters who are in this room and outside the room across the globe. I was born and grew up in a small village, part of the Toraja indigenous in the island of Sulawesi, Indonesia. The story of my people, of my ancestor, can be traced 6,000 years back, when human migrations from Asia continent to Indonesian archipelago, or today we call Nusantara, through the Philippines archipelago. My ancestors only survived with sophisticated collaborations and deep sense of the collectives. A collective need to explore, to survive, and to prosper. It is important, therefore, to see today that social innovations ARMMAN is being recognized for are approaches that are not unfamiliar to us, indigenous peoples across the globe. These are not unfamiliar. This innovative to us has been always there since our ancestral time. Thousands of years of indigenous way of life. These are our deep sense of collective responsibility and stewardship of all sacreds, the very things the dominant world is missing today. Globally, indigenous peoples are increasingly understood to be a critical component in the solution scenarios to the crisis we are facing today. Yet, across the world, our leaders who oppose forced occupations of our land to corporations, plantation mining, even today what's so-called new energy or sustainable energy, we are continue to be harassed and even killed. Just today, as I'm standing here, 17 of our indigenous leaders in Indonesia are facing charges and have been jailed. In Asia, the situation is even worse, as we in Asia are always invisible, while we have so much potential, because Asia is the home of 70% of indigenous peoples of the world. And we in Asia should be also prioritized. We are here today, I'm here today with my friend Mina. We are here not to protest, but to recognize the progress that we all have been made. The resistance against the control of our economic resources by few elites across the globe. Indigenous movements are vibrant, and we have contributed so much. And our presence today here at this moment is evidence of this. And thanks to Skoll Foundation for this. With increasing pressure on us indigenous peoples today, we cannot do this alone anymore. We call for your global solidarity. We call us as human beings to embrace the collective spirits. This is the basis of our common humanity. The collective must survive and prosper. Kurisumanga, terima kasih, thank you.
Thank you.
Rodney Foxworth to introduce our next awardee.
In Notes of a Native Son, James Baldwin, my favorite author, wrote, "Those who say it can't be done are usually interrupted by those doing it." Now, I like to think about that quote when it comes to our work at Common Future, where we're working to help close the racial wealth gap in the United States by shifting capital and power into communities of color. And as importantly, that's how I like to think about the work that's being done at PolicyLink, an organization that I've admired for a long time and has informed my own career. While others are twisting themselves up in rhetorical knots, responding to increasing nonsense out in the world, and I think all of us understand that there's a lot of nonsense happening. Our next awardee, PolicyLink, is pounding the pavement, taking action, refusing for anything less than root-deep transformation in the United States. And with that, I'm thrilled to introduce PolicyLink.
When I think of our vision for the future, I think of decent, safe, and affordable housing for everyone. Safe communities connected to opportunity for everyone. People having good jobs that allow them to take care of their families. We want to have a founder's mindset in which everyone can participate, prosper, and reach their full potential. You can't achieve the ideals of this nation when you're leaving so many people behind. There are more than 100 million people to this day struggling to make ends meet. So we have work to do. We want to have an equitable economy, a thriving multiracial democracy, and thriving communities of opportunity. And we go about our work by advancing public policies that we think have the greatest benefit for improving the life outcomes of that 100 million. We lift up the voice, wisdom, and experience of everyday people in communities.
Millions of dollars in federal money will now be focused on neighborhoods in need.
We design Promised Neighborhoods for the Obama administration. Today, that program has helped over 300,000 children, put more than $2 billion in areas of concentrated poverty.
When I rented, I never knew what my rent increase was going to be.
Our housing justice narrative work lifts up the voice, wisdom, and experience of local leaders. What would a just and fair housing market look like in this nation?
I signed an executive order to advance equality and racial justice throughout our federal policies and all our institutions.
We helped to write the Racial Equity Executive Order with President Biden. We helped coach leaders within the departments and agencies to implement that Racial Equity Executive Order. President Biden comes into office. The first executive order is a Racial Equity Executive Order. That's transformative. This is an unprecedented moment for us to wake up and recognize that we can have a founder's orientation to this nation. We all are worthy. We all deserve to prosper.
Please join me in welcoming to the stage Michael McAfee from PolicyLink.
Receiving this award isn't a blessing. And it's a blessing for two reasons. And I pray that you have the opportunity to have the clarity that I have right now, especially after having today to reflect a little. The first blessing is one that I got more than 20 years ago. It's the blessing of knowing who do I serve and what is the price that I'll pay to serve them. The second is what will I love into being. You heard a little bit of it in the video. You know, it's ironic that I'm standing on this stage today because 20 years ago, I got fired in Kansas City for doing this exact work. You know, I got fired because I refused to accept the comfort of having a good job and just being quiet. And it's been carried on throughout my career, this notion of who do I serve? Early part of my years, I felt that in my career. Mid-career, I had another chance when I first came to PolicyLink. I was coming up out of Penn Station, and I couldn't breathe. And I sat down, and I was like, I know I'm in shape. I wonder what's wrong. You should always listen to your mother. I went to CVS. I was going to see if they could give me something for it. It was closed. And I was talking to my mother, and she says, why don't you just go into the emergency room? And I did. You know, one blood clot would kill you. I'd gotten to PolicyLink, and I was traveling probably 60% of the time, and I ended up having more than 10 blood clots in both of my lungs. It was actually one of the best times of my life. And it was one of the best times of my life because once again, I got that clarity that I pray that you could have. I got the clarity that I was doing what the Creator has put me on this earth to do. That question of who do you serve? I was reminded of that, and I had to answer because I was doing it, so I was at peace. I knew my family would be okay. But no more important, I knew that my soul was okay. So I want you to think about who will you serve? I also want you to think about the price you will pay and what will you love into being. You know, I want to love into being a nation, a world that is the embodiment of equity. We say equity is just and fair inclusion into a society in which all can participate, prosper, and reach their full potential. And the key word there is all. And there is something quite magical about this community and so many folks out there in this nation, this world. And that is that there are so many of us who are not afraid to embrace the all. You know, I ask you to find those leaders, invest in their institutions, invest in their visions, invest in their dreams. The world needs that now more than ever. So I'm receiving this world with a heart that is full. It is full because I know who I serve. I know who I serve, and I know what I'm going to love into being. I'm going to love into being the promise of equity for everyone. So thank you.
Please welcome Edith Elliott and Shahed Alam of Noura Health to the stage.
Edith and I spend a lot of time working with people who are navigating vulnerable moments in complex and often confusing healthcare systems. At Noura Health, we train millions of families with the skills they need to support one another. But it's heartbreaking to see how the systems often leave them behind.
It's true. We need better systems, especially healthcare systems, for all. But that is a goal with a generational timeline. So what gets us up every morning is thinking, how can we give people agency over their health and rehumanize the system just a little bit every day?
Our next awardee asked that question as well, and her answer is incredibly elegant.
We are so honored and excited to introduce Reach Digital Health.
Digital health was something that people were pretty skeptical about. And yet, when COVID-19 started, all of our health systems were unprepared for this kind of emergency.
In the coming days, we will announce a powerful new tool.
It was a pivotal moment. It really changed the mindset about what the value of digital health was. And it really accelerated our work.
In sub-Saharan Africa, some people live up to 3 hours away from the nearest clinic. But today, with the penetration of smartphones increasing, we're able to distribute information very quickly.
Whether it's about HIV and AIDS, whether it's about malaria, it's about monkeypox or COVID-19. People are empowered when they get the correct information. They are able to make informed choices about their lives.
Reach builds two-way digital communication to extend the health system, make it more efficient, to help people on their own health journey.
We use really simple messaging systems like USSD and SMS, as well as WhatsApp.
We will send you messages. For example, you need to take medication every day, or you need to go for a checkup because you're pregnant. Having this many people engaging at this really large scale suddenly opens up the opportunity for data to completely change the way that health systems react to the needs of their patients.
Through these platforms, we have reduced the number of infections and we have prevented people from dying.
We need to stop thinking about patients as diseases. It does not matter if they're HIV positive, if they're a woman, if they're pregnant, if they're trying to quit smoking. People can be empowered to live healthy lives.
Please join me in welcoming to the stage Debbie Rogers from Reach Digital Health.
When I was 20 weeks pregnant, I thought I was going to lose my child. I had almost no amniotic fluid, and her growth was severely restricted. Every day that passed from that moment was critical, because every day her chance of surviving childbirth increased. She did survive, and I now have a very strong 10-year-old girl at home who keeps me on my toes, let me tell you. Yet I was one of the lucky few. I was not like the majority of pregnant women in sub-Saharan Africa, which is the home of 70% of the world's maternal deaths. Their time is also precious, but hours of their time are spent traveling to get to a clinic, and several more hours are spent waiting to access a checkup appointment that typically lasts between 3 and 10 minutes, usually with an overworked, exhausted nurse. That is not long enough to get the care that you need. But those 3 to 10 minutes mean everything to them. And yet we're in the decade where we are supposed to achieve universal health care. If we don't start innovating to strengthen healthcare systems, I believe this is purely a pipe dream. I often say that the attempts to achieve universal health care are like filling a leaking bucket. We can put in as many resources as we want, but the leak will still be there. The gap is just too deep. We must create practical, innovative solutions to this problem, because these mothers are simply not given the time they deserve. But what Reach has found is when they are equipped with the health information they need to utilize those very few moments in the most efficient way possible, it could help make the difference of a life saved. Using simple mobile technology such as SMS and WhatsApp, REACH has served more than 100 million people in 200 countries and territories. It's not a replacement for the healthcare system, but it can be an extension of it. Because when people have access to the knowledge they need about their health, they're both empowered to advocate for themselves and seek the right kind of care in the process. We can create a world where everyone is equipped with the tools that they need to live healthier lives. And we can achieve that with a simple handheld device. Thank you.
And now we welcome to the stage Tasso Azevedo from MAP Biomas.
So, as you know, one of the most pressing problems of our planet is facing today is climate change. And sustainable use of the land is crucial for this fight. In MAP Biomas, we use technology to map the land cover, land use in Brazil, in Indonesia, and throughout South America. And so that decision makers in business, government, and civil society have the science-based data that they need to push for sustainable management of our forests, soil, and water. And that's why I'm so excited about this next awardee. My fellow Brazilians, some of the most cutting-edge thinkers on how to line up our planet's deep needs with the people's economic motivation. We can scream, save the forest, all we want. But if we don't align economic incentives with this urgent action, then it will never happen at scale. So, I'm so honored to present Conexus.
Então, essa aqui é a típica propriedade do agricultor familiar. Aqui na propriedade ele tem uma diversidade, uma riqueza muito linda de culturas, né? O produtor rural ele cuida do solo. Diferente das grandes empresas que exploram muito a terra e se a terra fica infértil, ele abandona e vai para outra terra.
Brazil is the epicenter of climate change. The whole way we developed our country was basically on agricultural frontier expansion. So we were expanding, consuming our natural resources. At the same time, we are one of the most unequal countries in the world. And in the rural and forest areas, poverty and vulnerabilities are very strong. These are populations who are not used to having support for business to grow. They are in the survival mode. Conexus is focusing on how to create a bioeconomy that's inclusive and at the same time protect the environment.
In identifying the problem, we came up with three main strategies. The first one is building capacity of community businesses, understanding their specific needs in order to strengthen the organization and grow their businesses. The second approach of Conexus is really trying to look at how to innovate and get working capital to those cooperatives, because that's what they really need.
So we work with rural credit as credit agents of Bank of Amazonia to offer credit with technical assistance to producers.
As a third area of work, we see how can the products from the Amazon have a better value within global value chains.
The same population that is preserving our natural resources, living in the forests, are those most in need of an economy that will help them become resilient to both climate change and also to make a living. I think we are just in the beginning of this journey.
And now join me in welcoming Karina Pimenta and Marco Vanderie.
You saw the images. When you think about the forests, when you think about the Amazon, you see these billions of trees, this immensitude, these rivers crossing by with massive water. And sometimes we see the pictures of deforestation, as we saw, and you get appalled. But under these treetops, alongside those rivers, are these populations, millions of people who live in the forest, through the forest, and for the forest. They are the guardians of our biodiversity, of our natural wealth. And so if you want to keep the forest, we have to help them stay in the forest. And for that was the reason we created Connexus. Because we believe that an economic system is possible, that instead of looking at the natural resources as a source to consume, land to clear, that you can keep the forest and you have lots of biodiversity products and ecosystem services that protect all of us because of climate change. And that economy will also look into these people and benefit their livelihoods and their well-being in the forest. That's our aim with Connexus. And that's not going to happen, organically. It's not. We have to act, and we have to act to build an ecosystem for them. And this is a very tough one, because it shifts our minds, it shifts our perspectives, it takes us out of the comfort zone. Because when you talk to them, it is a different way of seeing economy. Who is right? When one of the first meetings I have with Connexus in the Amazon, there was like 50 people there, community leaders. And we were like for 2 days discussing, how finance can help your community enterprise, your business, and things like that. And at some point, a young woman stood up from the crowd and said, okay, one step down. What the hell is a community enterprise? We are people who live in the forest. We gather products, we collect it. So the very notion of a business means for them has to be invented with them, by them. And I think that was the beginning of a journey of building an ecosystem. And beyond this conversation, I have like thousands of conversations, not only with communities who help build the concept and the needs for them, but also with investors who need to shift their understanding to make possible finance to reach them, to bankers, to companies who want to buy these products in their value chains, but it's not the same structure, it's not the same way, for science, who can find so many products in biodiversity, but has to know how to work with who is protecting it. So this is the ecosystem we are building. And this beginning of this year, a new chapter for this ecosystem is unfolding. You all know we have a new government in Brazil who embraces the fight against the climate change, who embraces the idea of dismissing social inequalities. And in the beginning of this month, last January actually, I was invited to join the government to build under the Ministry of Environment the new Secretary for National Bioeconomy. Bioeconomy, social bioeconomy, this is one of the paths for Brazil to go and help find a cycle of development that's good for the people. So I'm very honored to be there and to use the knowledge and this ecosystem that we are building through Connexus to help create lasting policy making that will pave the way for this to be a lasting solution for Brazil and a social economy that we all strive and that will help us keep climate change apart from us. So I'm transitioning from Connexus, and Marco, who was our board member and founder, also kindly accepted the opportunity to help us transitioning. And good, thank you.
Well, we couldn't be happier.
Okay.
And sad, of course, that you left us. But we don't have to hire public policy specialists because we have people right away in government dealing with that. So that's amazing. And by the way, the young woman she mentioned, who was at our first meeting, she is now also in government as a secretary working with traditional peoples. So together with Karina. So she happened to be on our board, so we lost her too. But yeah. We are doing well in that sense. So it's amazing to see how we can really transform the ideas that we've been working on in Connexus, and Karina has been pushing so hard for, into the government and create a real bioeconomy policy in Brazil. We really need this. The Amazon needs it. These are critical years, the next few years, for the Amazon, for the climate, for the planet. So we have to create this bioeconomy, or social bioeconomy as we also like to call it, that works for people and nature in the Amazon and the rest of Brazil and globally. So we keep on working on that for the coming years, and we're looking forward to working together in partnership with the government, with funders, with local communities, and many other different partners from the private sector, banking, NGOs in Brazil to achieve these.
Yeah. So thank you, Skoll, and thank you for being part of this community.
Yeah.
Alessandra Orofino from NOSAS, and Angela Gishaga from Financing Alliance for Health back to the stage.
I hope you're not sick of me yet. Angela, you and I share so many values, and amongst them a belief in people power movements and how they're working to protect democracy. It's just such a pleasure to be here with you.
I know.
We're really excited that we could do this together.
I couldn't agree more. From my home continent in Africa to your home continent in Latin America, we know that democracies are the only way to keep communities and people engaged and committed to the political process. Financing Alliance for Health does this very thing by empowering citizens to co-create policies with governments and not be at the sidelines.
Absolutely. That's what we do at NOSAS too, so amen to that. And that is why we're very, very excited to introduce you to this new awardee who really understands how urgent this moment really is.
Last but certainly not least, it's our honor to introduce Protect Democracy.
Woohoo!
Famously, when our founders created the Constitution, Benjamin Franklin was leaving when someone stopped him and said, "What, sir, have you created?" And he said, "A republic, if you can keep it." In the 21st century, democracy has been in retreat around the world. You see the same set of plays in all of these countries. The attempt to politicize independent institutions, the spreading of disinformation by the government, the aggrandizing of executive power and undercutting of checks and balances, the quashing of dissent, the delegitimizing of vulnerable communities, the corrupting of elections, and the inciting of violence.
To defeat an authoritarian threat, we need a broad coalition of individuals and organizations who might disagree on politics and on policy, but who do agree that it's in our mutual interest to have a functioning system of government that allows us to resolve disputes peacefully and democratically.
At Protect Democracy, we're focused on addressing the root causes that are creating that anti-democratic extremism.
We got a technology shop that's building technologies that are being used by Democratic and Republican secretaries of state around the country to protect our electoral systems.
When we want to look the voter in the eye and say that we've got your back, the system is intact, it is protected.
We've got a best-in-class legal shop to strengthen democratic institutions and make sure that they hold anti-democratic actors accountable. We've got a strategic communication shop that's making sure that the American people have the information they need to self-govern. We got a legislation shop working to pass legislation that would strengthen our democratic institutions. Democracy is hard, it's frustrating, it's imperfect. And our job is to equip people to take action. Because if people don't take those actions, that's how democracy dies.
Now I'm happy to call up to the stage Ian Basson from Protect Democracy.
Don, I am happy to take the mantle of resident crier from you. I'm a sap, and I typically cry when I get inspired. I'm so inspired by all my fellow awardees and all of you, and Lord knows we are going to need inspiration. Because this year, in rooms not too dissimilar from this one, countries from Hungary to India, China, to Brazil, to the United States, people are assembling to plan forms of government to replace liberal democracy. They might call it illiberalism, we'd probably call it authoritarianism, whatever you call it. It is anti-democratic, and it's anti-freedom. Many versions of it seek to reinstitute traditional gender hierarchies, or reinforce racial hierarchies, or just seize power for a select few to impose their will on the broader many. Which is why I'm really grateful to be here in this room with all of you, because I think we can be an antidote. How can we do that? By modeling that we can respect the many differences that we have and still rise above them to unite in defense of putting democracy first. That means for all the incredible work that all the leaders in this room are doing to battle climate change or poverty or disease, just as we have woven addressing the climate and addressing racial equity into all of our work, we have to weave in sustaining a healthy democracy too. Because democracy is fragile. It's rare in the course of human history. Those of you in this room who live under non-democratic government know that in your bones. And those of us who've been privileged to live most of our lives under democratic governments have learned in recent years how easily it too can slip away. That has been democracy's story. Since its modern advent, democracy has risen and fallen in a series of waves. The first in the late 18th century, where democracy came, imperfect though it was, to a handful of countries, and then slipped from many. The second wave, after World War II, as empires fell and previously colonized nations became democratic and independent, democracy spread, and then too many of those countries lost their democracies. And then, finally, a third wave, the last quarter of the 20th century, where democracy spread to its furthest reaches yet. And in the early aughts, that wave too crashed back to sea. We are now living in the shallows of that recession. And so, it is our generation's challenge to stop the slide of that third wave and launch a fourth wave of democracy, this one finally, to reach every corner of the globe and every human being living under it. And I'm confident we can do that if we commit to always stand up for democracy. So let's make that commitment right now. Let's stand up for democracy. If you can, if you're able, let's stand up, or raise your hand if you're not, and make this commitment right now. This community, this world, we will not let democracy die on our watch. There is no sitting on the sidelines. There is no sitting down at all. Okay, you can say it. But promise me this, that after tonight, you will commit, including later tonight, you can take a couple hours off, but in the morning, you will commit to always putting democracy first. And ask yourself what role you can play, because everybody has a role to play. You saw we have chosen ours for Protect Democracy using legal tools and legislative tools and technology tools and communications tools and research tools, but everybody here has tools they can use. For the citizen leaders in this room, model going out of your way to reach across divides to reinforce the muscles of democracy. For funders in this room, funding institutions that are strengthening democracy. For private sector business leaders and CEOs in this room, you need to stick your necks out and you need to risk the brand capital that you've built and use the unique trust you have in our society to speak up for democracy, especially when it's hard. And for the media in this room, we need to tell unflinching stories about the threats we're facing that are unbiased but not neutral when it comes to democracy. And if we do that, I know we will protect democracy, and not only that, I think we will finally perfect it. I'm so inspired by this room. I'm encouraged by this room. I can tell you on behalf of all the awardees, we feel the love and the encouragement. It is so wonderful to be a part of this community. Thank you all so very, very much.
They did bring me to tears. Luckily, I was sitting back there. You couldn't see it. Thank you so much for joining me in joining all of us in celebrating the 2020, 2022, and 2023 Skoll Awardees. One more round of applause. When we were trying to think, how could we honor these people and all the social innovation that is here, we couldn't think of a better person than Governor Wes Moore. He is the fulfillment of John Gardner's advice to bet on good people doing good things. In fact, in The Other Wes Moore, his best-selling book, he wrote, and I quote, "The common bond of humanity and decency that we share is stronger than any conflict, any adversity, any challenge." What prophetic words for what we've experienced these last 4 years. From his career in the military service, in the private sector, in civil society, to his current role as governor of Maryland, he's demonstrated what it means to work across sectors, break down silos. He has made social innovation the central part of his vision for transforming the state of Maryland. The first time I met the governor, I was just struck by his combination of vision, intellect, and warmth. I think you will have a similar feeling. Please join me in welcoming Governor Wes Moore to the stage.
Good afternoon. First, can we please give it up for these remarkable honorees? I mean, it is impossible not to be completely filled and inspired by your stories and by your work. and it's an honor to be in your presence. And it's really good being back in Oxford as well. I actually did my grad school years here at Oxford, and it's a place that I learned that some of the best conversations that you're going to have are actually not going to be in the classroom; they'll be in the pubs. And it's a place that I also learned that warm beer does not get better with time, no matter how hard they try. But I really am. I'm excited and I'm humbled and I'm honored to be here with all the members of the Skoll community, and I'm thankful to both Don and to Marla, because not only are you remarkable leaders, but I'm thankful to also call you friends. And so bless you both for your leadership and all you continue to do for the community. And it's great because this is a community that is truly on the front lines of change. A community that's focused on fixing what's broken and transforming our world. And each and every one of you, in many ways, you remind me of why I got into government in the first place, because I wasn't always destined for public office. I'm the son of a single mom who didn't get her first job that gave her benefits until I was 14 years old. I felt handcuffs on my wrists by the time I was 11 years old. And I've never held public office until now. So my presence here is pretty improbable. But as the only African-American governor currently serving in the United States of America, and also only the third in the history of the United States of America. And as someone who is now responsible for 6.2 million people and close to a $500 billion economy. But the truth is when I reflect on how I arrived at this work that I'm in right now, I'm brought back to this community. I'm brought back to the world of philanthropy. I'm brought back to the world of social entrepreneurship because this was my community long before I decided to run for public office. This is the community that fueled my spark. I felt that spark when I ran one of the largest poverty-fighting organizations in the United States, working in partnership with many of you in this room. I felt that spark when I was a social entrepreneur myself, founding and building a social enterprise that helped underserved students make it to and through college. I felt that spark when I deployed to Afghanistan with the US Army, when I served in the White House, and when I wrote books on the issues of race and equity and opportunity. That's the spark that often brought me to conferences like this one. And I remember sitting in the audience in conferences like this, and we'd hear politicians and we'd see them come to stage, and I remember thinking to myself, wow, these guys have no idea what they're talking about. But because some of them would get up and they'd talk about how government was the only way to get stuff done, right? And some would come up and they'd talk about how government could never get anything done at all. But those of us who are actually in the audience on the ground doing the work, we knew that neither was true. That government can't solve all of our problems, but government can actually bring people together to come up with the solutions. And to be able to unearth the fact that in many communities the solutions were already there, they just need to be lifted up. And government can reshape the systems that are causing the brokenness in the first place. I remember when I ran Robin Hood, which is a poverty-fighting organization, we raised and we invested over $600 million in philanthropy just during the time that I was the CEO. And the reason that we funded food insecurity organizations is because there were so many people who were food insecure. The reason that we funded schools is because many of our children were not getting the education that they needed to prepare them for the world of now or for the jobs of tomorrow. So when people would say to me, they'd say, I believe that poverty is a choice. I'd say, you know what? You're right. But it's not the choice of the person who's sitting with the oppressive weight of poverty on their shoulders. No one wakes up in the morning and says, man, this poverty thing is cool. It's a societal choice. It's a policy choice. It's a choice of how much pain are we willing to watch our neighbors endure. The climate crisis is a policy choice. Disparities in healthcare is a policy choice. Inequality and the racial wealth gap, that is a policy choice. And I entered government because we wanted to offer some new policies. Policies that could do more than paint over the cracks, but policies that could actually fix the foundation. Policies that could build a coalition of the public sector and the private sector and philanthropists and mechanics and nurses. People who know that we do not have to solve these issues one at a time, but we need to solve them all at once. Because that's the only way you deal with a societal breakdown, is by actually instituting a societal build-up. And I have a true belief that we can actually get there, because I've seen the hope in the communities that we serve with my own eyes. Because, listen, I ran for governor. When I ran for governor, I traveled all across my state. And whether someone was from the city or from a farm or from the suburbs, everyone understood the challenges that we were facing. But they didn't reach out to me to offer criticism. They wanted to be part of the solution. Yet so many often, the same folks didn't know how exactly to serve. And as governor, my team and I, we are working together to make sure that people understand how they can be part of the process. That's how we create change. That we can create change by actually bringing people together to serve. And it's why I'm incredibly proud of the fact that one of my first acts as governor was to create a new agency in the state of Maryland called the Department of Service and Civic Innovation that brings people together and will headquarter our collective mission to recruit volunteers to help fix what's broken in our state and in our world. Engineers who want to build seawalls to protect our communities from the impacts of climate change and rising sea levels. Lawyers who want to donate their time to give the formerly incarcerated individuals a fresh start at life. Social entrepreneurs who want to not just help build a more just and equitable future, but who want to build it now. All the people that we want to recruit are going to be important, but the secret weapon are our young people. Young people who are not waiting for permission to change the world. Young people who want to get involved now to solve big problems. And that's why we are so proud of this state that actually, as of 2 days ago, Maryland is going to be the first state in this country that will provide a service year option for every single high school graduate. So after high school, students can go on to college, they can go to trade school, they can join the workforce, they can join the military. Well, in the state of Maryland, we got another option. You can have a chance to serve your neighbors and serve with your neighbors. Because service will save us. We're going to recruit young people to help solve the challenges in our communities, and we'll see to it that they have these opportunities because there is much more than unites us than actually divides us. And because people who serve together, they'll stay together. And we aren't telling our young people how to serve. You can serve in conservation, you can serve in education, you can serve in housing, you can serve in reentry work for folks who are coming back from incarceration. You can serve veterans. It is your choice. We just want to make sure that we are offering that pathway and a chance to make our state better and to give young people a path to do something that makes their heart beat a little bit faster. That we want to give them a chance to light that spark. To light that spark that's going to help that young woman over in West Baltimore, or to help that young man over in the Eastern Shore. That spark to help that child of a single mom, like me, to see more than what was just directly in front of them. But we need people to join this coalition. A coalition that believes in our young people and actually believes in the power of service. And that's why today I am asking and I am calling on the Skoll community to become partners in this work and to make this world a better place with us. Because in the state of Maryland, we're already doing things differently, as people are seeing very quickly. We're already moving with a different set of ideas. We're already moving at a different pace. And the truth is, we are just getting started. I want Maryland to be the best place in the world to change the world. I want this to be a place where everybody can participate in the movement that we are building, where no problem is too big to solve because we are actually solving it together. And when the next chapter of our story, of our state and our country and our world is written, I want all of your hands on the pen. I want all of your ink on the page. I want your names on that cover. Because I believe deeply that together we can write a story unlike anything that anyone has ever written before. That this is the time and this is the moment. And so I want you to be bold. I'm just saying I want you to be bold in Maryland. And I want you all to come on to Maryland. Because I know right now, in this moment, we are ready and we are excited and we are eager to be your partners in the work. I'm so thankful for each and every one of you, for being unafraid, for looking these challenges in the eye and saying we're ready, and for knowing that this is our time to leave this world better than the way we found it. Bless y'all, and thank you for all you continue to do. Thanks so much.